Thank you so much. So right now we are going into the section for community engagement. This is where we explore how the people, the local people, the role they have in ensuring that there is water conservation and that there is a good interaction between them and water, which extends to the entire environment. So, just to start us off with, because we're talking about local communities, I believe we all come from certain local community. Growing up, what are some of the beliefs that people had about water at home? And now, in addition to that, you will also share with us some of the indigenous ways that you have seen in your community, in other communities, that are good to be adopted in conservation of water and environment.
Thank you, Boniface, for that. I come from a village in Naivasha called Nyakairo. Mostly agricultural practices, small-scale farming, and livestock rearing. So with that said, then we also know that the people enjoyed whenever there were rains, because with rains they have good agricultural production, they have livestock production, they have everything is good, in short. Like we said, water is life. One of the practices that was, and I think is still very prevalent in that community, was about catchment of or water collection, because I would not classify it as a dry area. There were very good and regular patterns of rainfall throughout the year. Actually, as I was growing up, there was no boreholes. Well, so whatever water we used from rainfall. To do that, there were dams. That was one of the main. You would find that in every piece of land, in every household, they have their own dams, and they have channels on the road that are directing the water to these dams. Besides that, you will have that there is water harvesting, there is gutters all around the houses, and water tanks. It doesn't matter whether it's plastic, metallic, just anything that could store water. And I think one of the values that were or still, I'm not going to talk in the past tense, because this is something that is still happening. Some of the values that are still held very close in that community regarding to water is that, first of all, water is essential, very much. Water is sacred, because in terms of seasons when you would find that maybe there's been an extension of the dry season, you'll find that even people are holding, prayers, because they would consider it as if, maybe something is not okay, because at this time of the year we are supposed to be expecting rainfall, we are supposed to be planting, but there's no rainfall. So if I'll say anything about my community, and I'll be specific to my community, because I understand we all come from different places with, probably kila mtu anaweza kuwa na different understanding of, because if you come from places where it always floods when it rains, and it destroys crops, households, and everything, you are definitely going to have a very different perspective of water from what I have. For me, water was sustenance, basically. For me, water was basically sustenance, because even though there were always those once or twice few times when there would be an excess of water that would be flooding the farms and everything, it was not like the norm. It would be very rare to hear somebody that has died because of being carried away by water. And I think that is one of the most intrinsic value that my community holds in regards to water. It's basically life. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We'll now go to our educator, and he shares also his experience with water, what people say, what people do about water in the community, and what you think should be provided going forward.
Thanks a lot. First of all, let me begin by saying by saying that water for peace, it's the theme for the World Water Day 2024. And that goes back to where I grew up. I was really fortunate enough to grow up really in an area that the rainfall was good, and I did not see the challenges of water. However, water is one of the scarce resources in the world currently. We've seen that there are different areas in the country and also in the world where water being an issue. When water is scarce, there are wars. So growing up, seeing my community from whatever Gatima said, different ways, water storage used to be a norm. But then installation of gutters in houses used to be a norm. We went even to an extent of even having our own dams. Also, the other thing about the conservation of water is that it was a community thing. Water by then was a community thing. It was not a personal, private thing, and that would really help and create community ownership, even in different projects that were being undertaken in the community. That's for me.
Yeah, thank you so much for your experience. You're very fortunate to come from such an area which has very good rains, no worry about scarcity. Jemo?
Yes, Moses. I personally hail from Nyeri County, a place called Rudaya. And in my specific village, speaking to that specific context, I think water is more cultural because actually the name of my village is Kahuro. Kahuro in Kikuyu means a stream. And having asked my grandma where that name came from, she explained to me how during the rainy season there would be underground water that would spring out and just start flowing along the lands in that particular area. And that is where the place derived its name from. So in Nyeri, or rather in my specific village where I come from, water isn't that scarce, though now it's becoming scarce with climate change and all that. And it's more of a communal resource because I remember very well, my grandma had a borehole which was accessible to each and everyone in that particular community. If you needed water, you could just go there, fetch the water, no hindrances, nothing to hinder you from accessing that water. Unlike nowadays, whereby you find water is more of a personal or rather a capital resource, whereby people are even starting to capitalize water. Even if it's a borehole you have, you're selling water to the people. Back then it used to be more of a communal thing, and it used to be fresh water. The streams were so fresh, as in you could just go and drink directly from that particular source of water. And yeah, I think more communal speaks to culture, and it's a social thing. It unites people, brings people together. Because you'd find people would come even with their clothes just around the borehole from whichever aspect of that particular village. Obviously, those ones who are nearby, and they just come and wash their clothes over there around the borehole and do their business and just go home. Yeah. So it speaks to culture. It speaks to shared interest and a common point of interest which just unites the people around it. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. And that's also very incredible that your grandma was very generous with the community. Out of where I come from, people say that the least you can give someone is water. And if someone denies people water, then that person is like a murderer. You know? The people will say, what do you demand everything? Just give people water. I think that's also very important. And it shows how the community values water and how it even binds them together. Mercy.
Yes.
Tell us about water.
So in terms of perception of water, I would put it as blessed to have come from various contexts of life. I have experienced the urban perspective and the local perspective, so I'll give both. Yeah. So I'll start with the urban because I've spent most of my time there. And while the belief of water is that one, it could bring people together. You know, especially in estates where there is water scarcity, you have a central source of water where you meet and fetch together. So it becomes something that I have to wake my neighbors up. So to need to try to imagine, you know. So, and also at the area catchment, like the water source, I won't call them catchment, let me call it hubs. It becomes a point where people share information. It could be good, it could be bad. It could be where people discover, you know, things because shared information at that particular space. And also in the urban context, people would want to call it Gen Z thing, but it's really not. Whereby when you're going on a diet, you would deny your body everything else except water.
Yeah.
You know. So in that context, water is very important. Even when you eliminate everything, it becomes the constant. So in my local Ushago context, water in the sense of rain usually is looked as in two ways, as a threat and as a blessing. And from a place where they highly invest in agriculture, whereby it becomes their main source of income. So when it rains or it's close to rainy season, that's where they, you know, capitalize on everything to do with water and agriculture. So at that point, it becomes a blessing. In terms of curse, for lack of a better word, or a disadvantage, is that the landscape of where it comes from is slopey. And the soil structure or the soil type of where it comes from is the worst, or call it clay, you know. Well, not really clay because it's a soil that enables agriculture, but when it rains, it becomes like a slide.
Yeah.
People with vehicles have to find somewhere else to put their vehicles because they can't go up a slope. That's when you choose what to wear because you can't just freestyle your wardrobe. And yeah, so it cuts across. Yes. I guess there's anything.
Yeah, thank you so much. And maybe there's a point you mentioned earlier of how communities should react to settlement styles of communities. Like if a place is sloppy, then communities need to move to better areas that are less of risk. And a lot of times there's a challenge, especially when it's approaching the heavy rain season. People are told to move, and they say we can't move from where we live. And unfortunately, most of them are hit by tragedy. But what do you think? What are some of the measures that you would suggest that communities need to adopt? Because someone goes to live at a riverbank, and the rains are coming, and the rains will come, and when the houses are swept away by water, they start their lives afresh. What are some of the best ways you can implement to engage communities on how to engage with water either safely or also to have it as a resource for themselves?
So to answer that, I'd first of all start by people should understand, especially people that live in such disaster susceptible areas, disasters that are caused by water. We have to acknowledge the fact that they have traditional or cultural attachment with such, that particular area. Usually those are areas that are passed down.
Yeah.
My grandfather, my CG, my great nanny lived there. But people should understand that it comes with more. Because landscape consideration is very important, because you can't live at a riverbank and it's approaching rainy season. You're susceptible to that bank breaking and floods of whatever kind, flash floods. If you're in a slopey terrain, you'd be flushed away. Like, I don't know if it's Solari, that's the exact same thing that happened. People being attached by the areas that they live, and if you do your due diligence, you will understand that the early warning systems were practiced prior, like way before that particular disaster happened, and they were given alternatives of where to go, you know, way before this particular tragedy happened. Because what the assessors do is that they identify an alternative. You know, like where you live is accessible to X disaster caused by water. You could move to X place because it is safer regardless of what is coming.
Yeah.
You know, so I think what people should do in terms of community engagement, first we should engage directly with those that have this norm engraved in them that this is ours. Our grandfather left it to us. He lived there. He did not die. So climate change.
Yeah, true.
Relates to climate change and understand that disasters that happened way back are not the same that are happening right now. It's different. So you'll be hit differently. You know? So, well, with the meteorological department, the relevant stakeholders, county government, as well as the national government, should take it upon themselves to capacity build, you know, and train people at their capacity risk assessment ways.
Yeah.
You know, because I feel like we lack, there's a gap when it comes to risk assessment at the professional level and risk assessment at the local level, and bridging that gap by capacity building. What are we doing to ensure that this information in the offices, how do they get to these people at home?
That's true.
You know, so I feel like we should engage directly with the remote areas, because them, they believe my grandfather didn't die because of what I said to me.
Yeah.
So what are you telling me right now?
That's true.
And then make them understand that the way climate change is doing to us right now, it will cause different disasters from what it used to do to Tambo. Because maybe you have never seen a riverbank, you know, breaking. It will happen to you right now, and you will blame nobody because we told you, thanks to early warning systems.
That's true.
And of course, emergency responders.
Yeah.
Sure.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
The last thing maybe Jemo can tell us. One day I was walking out near Arki River, the junction of Kitui and Makwe, and the river was full. Unfortunately, as full as the river is, just a distance of a kilometer, someone can't use that water to do irrigation. Someone has to still use risky ways of getting that water because the river is flowing. So if you go there with the jerry cans, you might be swept. Is there a challenge? Do we have sources of water but lack transmission mechanisms where people can access the water? It's one thing to have a borehole here, another thing that water reaching to people where they are. Do we have that challenge, and are there innovations that have come up or are there ideas? I know people are moving to green, solar. Are there ideas that can make people access water from a distance? Because not everywhere there will be a river or a dam. It is somewhere far. How do we bring that far water to home?
Well, thank you, Boniface, and I think your point is very true actually, because especially during the flooding seasons, or probably even during the other seasons in these fast flowing rivers, access to water may be for drinking, even for swimming, because you know it speaks to various ecosystem conditions. You can drink it, you can swim in the river, you can fish in the river, but the state of the river doesn't allow you to do that. And I speak from a governance basis and also from a community basis. Speaking from a governance basis, I think it's up to the government, or especially the county government, to go down and narrow and have a conversation with these communities in line with the problems that they're facing, because they're there to provide solutions for us as much as we can also provide them for ourselves sometimes. I think it's up to them to narrow, to have this kind of conversation with these communities in line with what problems are you facing in line with accessing this particular resource that is at your exposure. And that way then we can have the government intervening and providing probably solutions, maybe pumps. You know, there are these pumps that are used to like pump water from the source to a particular place. We can have that now in line with the government. But also for the community. Yesterday we were in Nakuru County in commemoration of the World Water Day today, and we were with the Kenya Water Ambassadors. And it was quite it was a mixed experience. I'd have to say it was joy and also tears at the same time. And we got a chance to interact with the local community. And one outstanding thing I noted with them is they have an association called the Water Resource Users Association, that is TERWAS. And that is also a very good solution in that communities can also accept that yes, we have this resource at our exposure, it's ours, but again, for us to be able to sustainably get to use this resource, we need to undertake 1, 2, 3 activities. So I think it's up to also the communities to accept that they have the solutions to the challenges that they are facing, and with unity of purpose, they can be able to come up with viable solutions to be able to exploit these resources in a sustainable manner. So yes, the challenge exists, but I believe that the solution also exists with us.
Oh, thank you so much. That's a very interesting perspective, that people themselves can actually come together and come up with solutions to the problems that they face.
Yes.
Thank you so much. I would like to take this opportunity to thank each one of you for your great insights, very transformative. We believe that any person who comes across this video gets to grasp and practically implement the insights that we have shared in this conversation. Thank you so much.